I'm here to talk just a little bit around the state of the Union Black women in finance. We heard from Anissa that we do have, and also from Sydney, that we do have quite a lot of educated Black women. We're probably the most educated class of folks in this country, at least on the rise that's going forward. There's lots of entrepreneurship. We are one of the fastest groups that are going ahead and starting their businesses. All that said, we still actually only access 3% of the capital for businesses. So if we talk about venture capital, angel investors, getting your small business loans, we only get 3% of that amount of money. And so of course you see a lot of movement around why that is and what we can do to rectify it. And I'll talk a little bit about this, but I think that a lot of times we look to other to infuse cash instead of just realizing that actually we have a lot of Black economic power. We are. Yes. Another statistic on the flip side, and which is why we are constantly being marketed to, is that actually we are known to spend lots of money and put a lot of money back into this economy, but what we don't do is spend our money back with us. We spend our money back to other people. And in this economy, so instead of looking to others, we can really think about creating coalitions of wealth within our own communities, and hopefully this is like one of those ways that we're starting to do that, right? Putting on events like this. Also, when we think about wealth, there is this idea that the majority of poor people in this country are Black. The majority of poor people in this country are actually white. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of them are white folks. And of course we do obviously have quite a few folks who are struggling with wealth here, but I say that to say that we have actually a pretty decent middle class. The problem with our middle class is that we are not very good at thinking about intergenerational wealth, which is making wealth go from one generation to the next to the next. In fact, the statistic is that if a parent can get to the middle class, bring themselves from lower class to middle class, there is a high rate of probability, especially with the Black male population, I think it's like 70%, they'll go back down to the lower class again. That is not the same statistic for white folks at all. Once they move out of the lower class, generally speaking, they continue to go up and rise. And again, lots of reasons why. I mean, there's lots of policies that allow for some of those disparities. So we're going to talk a little bit about credit. Credit sounds like a bad word and everyone hates credit. Oh my God, my credit, da 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 da. Credit is actually something you can use for power. This is what white folks do, very much so. And you need it. It allows you to grab the money, to grab good rates on your home, to get jobs. Did you know that sometimes your jobs will look at your credit score and decide whether or not you get a job at a particular rate, so that's already affecting your income? Did you know that when you go to PSE&G and to the cable bill, yeah, you can get something in your name, maybe if you have decent credit, but if your credit is bad, actually your rate is higher. So I had someone say, how come you keep, everyone knows I like to be hot, right? So I keep my heat at 80 to 90 degrees in my house. And yeah, and she can attest to that. And my bill is really not that high. And people are like, how come your bill is really not that high? I said, because my credit is good, and so therefore I have less rate when I went in. If your credit was low, you would be paying more for the same amount of heat being consumed. So think about all of those things that are taking the income out of your pocket and putting it out somewhere else because you didn't want to take care of your credit score.
And once you know that, then you tell your kids so they don't repeat the same thing over and over.
Okay, so, you know, selfish plug, there is somebody here who could talk to you about credit. But no, seriously, that's just one of the, I just say that to say that we don't have this kind of education within our communities, and that's one reason why we are not able to access the same type of wealth and also go ahead and make sure that our children can inherit. It's like sometimes inherit, someone said to me, they're like, you know, inherit is like a bad word in the Black community. No one even what do you mean inherit? We don't even think about the things that we can leave our children when we pass on because we don't even want to talk about death. Well, death is a part of life, so we need to start thinking about our assets, managing them, thinking about our estate. Estate planning should happen right away. As soon as you have a child, even if you're 20 or 21, 22, you need to be thinking about your estate planning because what does happen if something goes wrong with you? So these are the type of things that we don't like to talk about. We don't have the knowledge, sometimes the knowledge to talk about effectively. And so I think these types of environments where we can start having these kind of conversations in safe spaces are a good way to start getting there.
Or we don't know.
Or we don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Or we really just don't know. So if you don't know, the conversation is never going to come up because it's not a part of your day-to-day life. Or we don't make time because there's only still 40 hours. And if you're 8-10 hours going back and forth on train, you come home and you make dinner and you do everything and you try to chill for an hour and then you're helping kids with homework and then it's 9-10 o'clock. So there are things purposely blocking us from getting this information. It's not that it's not there, it's just not on our day-to-day radar. And that's the problem. Why not?
No, that's very true, and especially in the school system, they're doing so much in passing this test, passing that test, but they're not taking that time to really teach you, how can I utilize this in my life? You know, when I learned trigonometry, I was like, I'm not gonna be a carpenter. I don't know, you know, like when I turned 20 and I was laying hardwood floor down, I was like, but it took me a long time to actually apply that. They, you know, and the thing is, they have to be creative. These are kids, and unfortunately, adults are teaching them where they don't have the creativity, and they just have this, I have to do this, I have to get this check, I have to do this, and they have people who, if they're looking, they're supposed to look and think about stuff. They're supposed to kind of look around and, you know, try, what can I do to make myself better? No, pay attention right now. Okay. So it's like you have to really see what you have to look into what makes them tick. How can I apply finances? How can I apply math into this? You want that phone? Okay. This is how you can get it. If you wanted to get this on your own, make it reachable, attainable for them, and really that will be something they will carry on and on and on if you give them those tools and really apply it. Give them the rationale. Why does this work? How did that work? Let them tell you the rationale. Do the teach back, and it's so important.
And we have to add the word politics into it because everything that's been said in terms of education, the quality of life for Black women, the role of healthcare, the treatment of mothers and the resources that mothers have, all of that comes back to politics. And I want to read you a quote, and it says, "Folks need to remember, if you want to win, follow Black women," said Melanie Campbell, President CEO of the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation and convener of the Black Women's Roundtable. We are the secret sauce. And I had to say that because I want you to think about that, especially for all of us who cook. You know, sometimes you don't want to give out the recipe for the secret sauce, right? There's at least one person in your family that hooks that meal up and they've got the secret sauce. We as Black women, we need to see ourselves as that secret sauce to do what? To transform our communities. And so in terms of 2018, that was a major year in terms of significant political gains for African American women in this country. We know that Ayanna Pressley won. She went to Congress. We know that Juliana Stratton, she became the first African American woman elected to serve as lieutenant governor in the state of Illinois. We know that right here locally, Andrea Stewart Cousins, she's leading New York State. She's right in the front. She's taking her place. She's right there chairing the Senate. We know that Letitia James, originally from bad prosecutor now, she is the first African American to lead as the Attorney General in New York. So we've made these gains, and we know that Stacey Abrams is going to come back again. Right? She was a sister of power as well, and she's going to come back. So we have to ask the question, what are we going to do locally, right? Because everybody's up there. So we need people to be on the ground. Yes. Right? And I want you to think about that, because we need people like everyone that's sitting in this room to consider running for a local office. It can be a school board, it can be a trustee, it can be council, but we need women, Black women, to run and to take their rightful place. No one else knows how to run a community well the way that we do, right? Because we can set things straight. Okay? So mothers who can be advocates in their community. Yes. The role of the mother should be valued in the community. Yes. That if you're a mother, you don't have to go to business school to figure out how to fix the school system, how to make sure that the streets look right and there's a quality of life, because you've gained all of those skills, right? You learn how to multitask. You've learned how to run a corporation right within your own house, right? So the things that women do, we have to value that and say, we need to pursue local government. And so for me personally, I was never really interested in politics. I call it politricks. That's my name for it. Like, I don't want to be involved in it. But in my community, when I saw that we were not being represented, we were not at the table, I had to think back to my Shero that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
I've been itching because growing up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, for those that know, that organization does not vote. And I have not been actively a member in over 20 years, but my foundation is still the same. So how does an activist who is very much involved in the day-to-day community and as a parent, especially in this state, teach their children who does not vote? So for those that may for whatever reason share in not necessarily being involved in the politics, I think it is imperative that we're involved on the community level in what goes on in our schools, being PTAs, being delegates, because that's the other component about education, again, when it comes to the politics. Because as a mom, if I did not teach, but if I don't have the knowledge, if I did not teach my children that their vote does not matter every 4 years, it's the every other year. People are voting last year because of what's happening now. But how many people voted last year that's never voted before or only vote every 4 years because they don't know that they have to be involved in your police commissioner, your fire chief, your district leader, your school leaders, who's your local delegate. We don't know those things. Not that it's not out there, but again, in our routines and our days, it's not being talked about, it's not being discussed. And because we're only getting fed vote for 4 years, 4 years. So we're only voting every 4 years. Of course, we're not going to make a difference of who gets in office, who's presently, because we weren't involved in the day-to-day. So for those, then, that do vote, don't vote, again, the education starts at home. Because if my children don't know, if my children are not in that picket with me, if that children is not in that booth with me, if my children don't know, getting it from me, not blaming anybody else because they didn't teach my child.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? If I don't have the tools, so again, it comes back to me as a parent, coming to stuff like this to gain the tools so I can take it back home and talk to my children so they are aware, they have the knowledge. When they go to school, they know the power of their voice, so they're involved in it. My daughter right now, 15, tried to find her way as an athlete. In the 10th grade, found her way on student council. You know what I'm saying? Foundation at the house.
Excellent. So now we have to ask the question then, across the country, Black women are leading the charge to take our country back and to lead the way. So now that's the question. How can we as Black women create change and be spheres of influence right where we are? And anyone can pick up on that. And then I can try to get to some people in the audience because I know they were burning. So,
I guess I'll start.
Yes.
One thing that I know is for Black women, Black children, our capabilities have always been underestimated. Opportunities have not been just handed to us easily or ever. We have the seeds of purpose, the seeds of prerogative have not been planted and nurtured. So once we know that, we now know we have to get it. We have to get up and get it. We have to find it. So let's get past that part because we're not going to get handed things that other people are handed, but we know that they're there. So it's our role, because of this systematic racism of where we're located and who's around us, who's stopping us from moving forward. They're not limits, they are obstacles, you know, and yes, we have more obstacles. And every time we climb higher and higher, that window gets smaller and smaller. But the people who get through that window, it's should be their mission to widen that window for people, to create a pipeline for people to learn, to know what a job entails, especially in regards to politics. You don't know if you qualify for a job, you have no clue what they do, you don't see them, you don't do this. So it's very difficult for you to say, I'm qualified for this. You know, you don't see them. Yeah, so it's to have that knowledge base to really hone in on our young, old, it doesn't matter, Black women, to just let them know that these are what the qualifications are. This is what we're trying to do. I would like for you to be on board. You can shadow. I will be your mentor. I will guide you. Find a mentor, and they're not going to find you necessarily. You can find them, and you can ask them very straightforward, I like your work. I would like for you to be my mentor. How can this happen? Because once they see that you have an interest, they don't have to push, they don't have to go out of their way that much. You're there. You're showing up. Okay. All right, Grasshopper. Stay right here. Let's get to work.
Did you want to, so you were kind of itching to jump in on that? Go ahead.
Yeah. I talked somewhat about the statistics earlier, and I think before we answer the question, really, what can we do? We need to understand a little bit more about what is the cause of all of these things. And, if you look at least in healthcare, causes can be divided into 3 general categories. One is yourself. You have to take some responsibility. Another is healthcare providers. They have to take some responsibility. And the other is the community at large. Yes. And if you look at the contributory sort of factors, at least what some of the research and papers have shown, about 40% of it is self, about another 30% is healthcare provider, and the rest is sort of the community and hospitals and where you are. And when I say where you are, it really makes a difference. I gave you statistics about the U.S. overall, but if you're in a state like Georgia versus a state like California, you're on different ends of the spectrum. California has made some tremendous progress, and they have a rate that's now about 4.5 per 100,000, whereas a state like Georgia might have a rate of 40 to 45 per 100,000. So sometimes where you're born and where you live clearly affects your lifestyle and what kind of health care you get. So we have to keep all these things in mind. The causes are extremely complex. There's no one answer. And it takes all of us. Everybody throws this around, it takes a village, but it really does. One of the key things is that we have to get politicians to listen.
Exactly.
And education, I can't stress it enough. And when I say education, it's not just the formal learning education in school, but it's also educating ourselves about preventative health care, preconceptual counseling, making sure that we have our children vaccinated, making sure that we do all of the routine screening tests in terms of pap smears, mammography, and all the other things, diabetes screening, healthy lifestyle, all of these things. And a lot of that starts with us and with the family. I mean, that's the core. And then you go to the greater community. And of course, I mentioned also that even when you look at women who are educated and of a higher socioeconomic status, there's still a difference in health outcomes. And that is, people throw all kinds of things around, but a lot of that is probably related to cultural biases and institutional racism. It may be blatant, it may be subtle.
Yes.
But people don't understand until they walk in our shoes. You can't always put your hand on it, or you can't always define it, but as they say, you know it when it happens to you. And when that is constantly happening to you, your cortisol levels are higher, you're under more stress, it definitely impacts your health overall. So, having said that, I think what we need to do is make sure we're educated, advocate for ourselves, have coalitions and collaborations. One of the ways the state of California was able to bring its rate down was to set up this collaborative where they have 200 hospitals. They all use the same sort of toolkits to address some of the issues that come up to help manage women who do end up having problems during labor and delivery and postpartum so that they don't end up dying from those complications. So I'll stop there, but I know, get me worked up, and I can't stop there.
Before you go on, the fact that only 2% of the entire medical doctors are Black women.
That's true.
Yes.
How many of them are actually caring to do that research, to put in that research?
Well, that is a part of the problem, and I'm gonna actually bring it to even a bigger level. We hear a lot about the opioid epidemic, and it is a problem.
Yes.
And more women are dying from the opioid epidemic as well. However, it is the only area where more white women are dying than black women are. It's opioids. And they care, and so, you know, when it was more of an issue in the black community, nobody gave a rat's ass about it, frankly. But now that it's spread to the middle class and upper, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of talk. But you know what? Maternal mortality needs to be discussed also on that level. It needs to be brought to the
I
forefront.
just wanted to call attention to, since we're all a group of black women here and we're talking about empowering ourselves and really emboldening ourselves. With the recent attack that was made on the McDonald's employee, that was one of our sisters, that was one of our mothers, that was one of our aunts, our children. As African descendants, as African women, we all know and believe that we are warriors, we are matriarchs. One of ours was attacked. And we need to be, whatever form of protest you feel is necessary, we need to be protesting this corporation, McDonald's. We've known for a long time how unhealthy, how harmful, and how degrading they are to our community. They've made it even more evident. We need to be standing up and protecting this woman because she will never be the same again. There were men standing around there not doing anything to protect her. She will not be the same. We need to ensure her health.
We need to boycott, and we also need to use our social media to share the video, because when people see it for themselves, they will do it, but then understand what's in the food is not even real. So let's do that. Anybody want to set it off? You just did. Let's do it right here. Let's do what we need to do. If you're not on social media, not on it, you can start a petition right in the room. Give us some paper. All right, who's next? Right here.
Myself?
Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This has been really, really fantastic. I'm so glad that I'm here. Myself and Anissa, we go back as far as how we met and whatever. It's a whole nother story. And one of my things that I've done, I'm former president of the Freeport Roosevelt NAACP as a female. So when you talk about out there, it's being an activist and fighting in the streets, I mean, my warrior signs are here because that's what we have to do, and that's where I've been, whether it's with Eric Garner, whether it's with Sean Bell, the Cole, the whatever. And I think this is our oldest organization, the oldest, baddest, boldest since 1909, and we all should be members, only $30 a year. And some people will say that it's not the same as it used to be, but whatever. But remember, it's us. If you ask me what does NAACP does, it's what are you doing, because it represents all of us as one. And it does has a recognition, and to make sure that issues are brought to us, whether it's voter empowerment, organized, galvanized, mobilized, and we as black women, we are the power. And what I've done also, we spoke about mental health. I'm speaking fast because 2 minutes talk. Okay, with Children's Center, I've been on the board there for at least 20 years and addressed mental health issues. And I noticed that most of the kids, the reason I'm still there is due to the fact that black boys mostly were there, to bring them there for treatment, to make sure. And so if you look at, once again, Mr. Google, as she mentioned, you can look up Woodward and see what it has accomplished and what it still is accomplishing. And what I've done now, my thing, I've been in hiatus for a quick minute. I've started something called MACCAM, M-A-C-C-A-M. I'll give my cards out. And what it is to maximize, capitalize. And what we're doing is opening literacy programs, particularly for black males, black people, period, after school literacy. Because as you say, some of our kids are in Rikers Island or wherever it is. And what's the thing they're doing? They're trying to hustle. They're trying to make money. So why don't we teach them what we are? They're our children. They're our children. Okay? And what we have to do is represent our children. Another thing is, for as the school system is concerned, they expel black boys so many times. I am not a lawyer, but when I walk in the classroom and when they know the principals and lawyers will come, when they know that I'm there, they know I'm going to represent those kids, because we have got to take care of our own. And I love you, my sisters, and whatever. So I will be giving you my cards. Join NAACP. Our next meeting is next Saturday in New York City.
Heavily on my heart, and as you know, I've co-founded a group called Long Island Girl Talk that works with young women. And I don't know if we are aware of the crisis that is going on with our girls and young women. Certainly it is the big news story now because of the Surviving R. Kelly series. But working with these young women, even at the college level, what I am seeing is they have very low self-esteem and no confidence. And you can give someone every tool in the world and every advantage, but if they don't have confidence, if they don't believe in themselves, if they don't think they're worthy, they are not going to take it. A lot of my job as a college professor is just encouraging people to stay in school. Don't give up. They have the talent, they have the brains, but they don't believe they can make it. They'll quit in a hot second. And so we as women, we are very strong and powerful. We've got to make sure we start grooming them and showing them how we became that way from a very early age, because our school systems are set up to what? Dumb them down, bring them down, so that by the time they reach adolescence, they just don't feel like they're worth very much. A lot of what we see with our young people is bravado. It's not real, right? It's all on the outside, right? They're big, they're bad, you can't tell them anything. But if you look at their behavior, it shows someone who doesn't think that much of themselves, right? So we can't let ourselves be fooled by our kids. We need to tell them we love them. We need to tell them we understand it's hard. We need to share these stories with them, right? So they know that they're not the only one who's made a mistake, but you can bounce back from it. So